Good morning. I think I finally, after 18 chapters, I figured it out how to schedule uh, his little life event. Here we are. Good morning. Chapter 18 of this beautiful book, The Song of Ribhu. And what a song did he write? I think I'm under a. Uh-oh. Let me see. I have the wrong chapter here. I thought it was chapter 18. Yes, chapter 18. Meditation on the undivided nature. Verse 1. I shall tell you further about the Supreme, what has been said in great secrecy, hidden in the Vedas. Those who listen to this with a pure heart and understand it will become of the nature of the undivided Supreme and attain the bliss of liberation while still alive, and after being rid of all conditionings, abide as the nature of pure Brahman themselves. 2. All these appearances, which are seen as the world and others, are of the nature of Brahman, which is existence, consciousness, bliss. All the individuals, which are of the nature of knowledge and exist as I, are completely of the nature of the undivided Brahman. Those who follow this teaching and obtain full knowledge will become the perfectly full Absolute. There's not an atom of doubt about what has been said. In the name of Shiva, this is the great truth. 3. What is seen as this is also of the nature of Brahman. What is seen as I is also of the nature of Brahman. What is seen as that is also of the nature of Brahman. What is seen as something is also of the nature of Brahman. What is seen as firm is also of the nature of Brahman. What is seen as not steady is also of the nature of Brahman. Whatever is seen in whichever way is also of the nature of Brahman. There's not the least doubt of what has been said. 4. The revered Guru and disciple are also of the nature of Brahman. The worldly means are also of the nature of Brahman. Listening, Shravana, and reflection, Manana, are also of the nature of Brahman. Meditation is also of the nature of Brahman. Understanding the meaning of a great principle is also of the nature of Brahman. Being that principle is also of the nature of Brahman. All is always of the nature of Brahman. There's not the least doubt of what has been said. 5. The means and the ends are of the nature of Brahman. All the good qualities, such as peacefulness, are of the nature of Brahman. Knowing and what is to be known are of the nature of Brahman. The Vedas and scriptures are of the nature of Brahman. The blessing of being differenceless is of the nature of Brahman. All other things are also of the nature of Brahman. I am that undivided, beginningless, and endless Brahman. Meditate thus. 6. The beginning, the end, and the middle are all of the nature of Brahman. The self and the non-self are of the nature of Brahman. All the elements are of the nature of Brahman. All that is composed of the elements is of the nature of Brahman. The insentient and the sentient are of the nature of Brahman. Truth and falsehood are of the nature of Brahman. I am that Brahman which is so established. Meditate thus and be ever steadfast. 7. I indeed am of the nature of the infinite supreme Brahman. There's not an atom of egoity or such. I am of the nature of Brahman, which is consciousness. There's nothing like thought or such. I am of the nature of Brahman, which is truth. There's not an atom of the world, beings, or such. The pure supreme Brahman is all, and that am I, meditating thus, ever in bliss. 8. I am of the nature of the supreme Brahman, which is the one. There's nothing that manifests as this or that. I am of the nature of the supreme Brahman, which is delusionless. There's nothing that is ever created. I am of the nature of the supreme Brahman, which is partless. There's nothing that is divided into the manifold. One supreme Brahman is all, and that am I. Ever uninterruptedly meditate thus. 9. What appears as I is only myself, the supreme. There's nothing separate, existing as I here. What appears as the world is only myself, the supreme. There's nothing separately existing as the world here. What appears as the highest is only myself, the supreme. There's nothing separately existing as the highest here. All is only the supreme, which is myself. Ever tirelessly meditate thus. 10. Apart from Brahman, which is perfectly full, there are never any such things as beings and others. Apart from Brahman, which is the cause, there's never anything that is the effect. Apart from Brahman, which is decayless consciousness, there's not in the least any such thing in the world, individuals, jivas, or the Supreme. I am that undivided Brahman, which makes all this known. Meditate thus. 11. There's no such thing as mind and others, only the Supreme Brahman, which is perfectly full consciousness, is real. Whatever else appears as real is unreal, like the horns of a hare. That Brahman is the same as yourself. I am the non-dual Supreme Brahman. Ever steadfastly meditate thus. 12. The nature of that Supreme Brahman is an integrated whole, perfectly full existence, consciousness, bliss. The apparent world looks variegated. It is the symbol of sorrow, insentience, and unreality. The nature of this Supreme Brahman is yourself. Thus ever meditate, without any duality, that I am the Supreme Brahman. 13. That stainless Supreme Brahman alone is the reality. There is nothing whatever of what is seen or heard. Only the perfectly full Supreme Brahman is real. There is nothing whatever of what is thought, or, there's nothing whatever of what is thought of or not thought of. Only the eternal Supreme Brahman is real. There's nothing whatever of anything else. I am the defectless Supreme Brahman, meditating thus always, without a doubt. 14. The subtle Supreme Brahman is the only reality. There is not an existent atom or various objects that are talked about. The infinite Supreme Brahman is the only reality. There is not an atom of you or I or others. The incorporeal Supreme Brahman is the only reality. There is not even an atom that is apart. I am that absolute, beyond the reach of words. Meditate thus, ever sorrowless. 15. There is not an atom that is to be perceived apart from me. All that is seen in me, the seer, is myself, the Supreme. Meditate thus on my and your Guru's words. I've not an atom of conceit. In that I have given you such a duality-less discourse. I have not an atom of conceit. In that I have given you such a duality-less discourse. This is the faultless discourse of the great Guru, the Supreme Shiva, to me. 16. You should motionlessly meditate daily, that by the words of the Sadguru, the true Guru, all is the attributeless Brahman, which is existence, consciousness, bliss, and that is myself. The teaching of any Guru is also likewise and nothing different. This is the truth in the name of the primal Supreme Shiva, who transcends the triad of qualities and is consciousness alone. 17. The Sadguru is of the nature of Brahman, which is just consciousness. I myself am that attributeless Brahman. Unwaveringly meditate thus daily. This is the settled conclusion taught to me earlier as the truth by the Supreme Shiva, the revered Guru. This is the declaration of the settled conclusion of the taintless Vedanta, or faultless features. 18. I indeed am the blemishless Supreme Brahman. I indeed am the partless Supreme Brahman. I indeed am the unequaled Supreme Brahman. I indeed am the attributeless Supreme Brahman. I indeed am the unsurpassed Supreme Brahman. I indeed am the limbless Supreme Brahman. I indeed am the actionless Supreme Brahman. Meditate ever thus and be unwavering. Mm. 19. I indeed am the Supreme Brahman, which is the substratum of all. I indeed am the Supreme Brahman, which is the undivided and perfectly full. I indeed am the Supreme Brahman, which is blemishless. I indeed am the Supreme Brahman, which is the pure space of consciousness. I indeed am Brahman, devoid of even an atom, such as the world and others. I indeed am the Supreme Brahman, which is highly peaceful. I am the unparalleled Supreme Brahman. Thus, ever unwaveringly meditate. 20. I indeed am Brahman, which is eternal. I indeed am Brahman, which pervades all. I indeed am Brahman, which flourishes as truth. I indeed am Brahman, which is changeless. I indeed am Brahman, which is of the nature of pure bliss. I indeed am Brahman, which is the most auspicious of the auspicious. I am the non-dual Supreme Brahman. Meditate thus ever and be unwavering. 21. I indeed am Brahman, which cannot be enumerated, such as the series of one, and so on. I indeed am Brahman, which is the knowledge of the fourth state. I indeed am Brahman, which is devoid of caste and the like. I indeed am Brahman, which is the divisionless, the partless. I indeed am Brahman, which has not an atom apart from it. I indeed am Brahman, of the nature of the undivided. I indeed am the indivisible, supreme Brahman. Ever continuously meditate thus. 22. Delusion and other things do not exist. All is of the nature of the undivided Supreme Brahman. There's nothing ever in parts. All that seems divided is of the nature of Brahman. There's not an atom of such as country or world. All that appears as the seen is of the nature of Brahman. I indeed am the one Supreme Brahman. Ever meditate thus, without duality. 23. There's nothing else that is seen here. All that is seen is Brahman, the seer. And I indeed am that Brahman without a second. I indeed am that blissful Supreme Brahman. I am likewise all. If you ever meditate thus tirelessly, all the impregnable dirt that has encrusted your mind as differentiation will be completely cleaned up. 24. Casting afar thoughts of the world and the like, meditate that all is Brahman. Casting afar the thought that I am the body, ever meditate that I am Brahman. If you ever meditate tirelessly that all is Brahman and that is myself, all the delusion that I am different and all this, such as the world, is different, will be removed for all time. 25. Casting afar any idea that I am the body, meditate that I am Brahman, which is the truth. Casting afar the thought that I am I, meditate that I am Brahman, which is knowledge. Casting aside the several ideas that contribute to differences, contemplate that all that is seen is the Supreme Brahman. I am one, and I am all. Meditating thus, you shall get rid of all the differences. 26. I'm not this body. I'm not these. I'm not this body. I'm not these. I'm ever the Supreme Brahman, which is consciousness. I'm ever the Supreme Brahman, which is consciousness. There's nothing at which to aim. There's nothing for which to strive. All is consciousness, and that am I. Sincerely meditating thus, get rid of this differentiation. 27. Not an atom of this body or others exists. Not an atom of this body or others exists. Whatever body there is only consciousness. Whatever body there is only consciousness. I am consciousness. I am consciousness. All is consciousness. I am consciousness. I am consciousness. All is consciousness. The Supreme Brahman is consciousness, and that am I. Sincerely meditate thus, and be rid of differences. 28. There's not an atom apart from the exalted Brahman. All these worlds and individuals and the Supreme are entirely of the nature of the exalted Brahman, and that you are. I'm telling you this truth. Hence, meditating steadfastly that I am Brahman, I am Brahman, I myself am all. I am Brahman, I am Brahman, I am all. Destroy separateness so that it does not affect you in the least. 29. The world, the supreme, and individuals do not exist in the least. All is the exalted supreme Brahman, which is just consciousness. I indeed am the exalted Brahman. I am all. If you're always of this bhava, conviction, that I am Brahman, all this separateness will be destroyed by it. I'm telling the truth in the name of Shiva, who is of the nature of truth, who is all pervasive, with the directions as his apparel. 30. If it is not possible to have the meditation that I am Brahman, because of want of concentration of the wandering mind, even if you always utter aloud, I am Brahman, I am Brahman, I am all, I am the changeless supreme, I am the supreme. By such action, the wandering mind, which never is steady, will gradually steady itself in this unwavering conviction. 31. If the mind is established ever in such conviction, the changeless, undivided knowledge of the Supreme will result, and the differences that are erroneously seen in the wandering mind will immediately cease. Until these differences that appear cease to exist, always fully meditate that all that is seen is the Supreme, and that Supreme Brahman is indeed myself. 32. There is no sound as all, no meaning for all, no changing gods, no holy waters, no differences, no transformation into differences, no spirit, no individual, no world. All is the partless Supreme Brahman, which is all pervasive as consciousness, and that Supreme Brahman am I. Thus ceaselessly and tirelessly meditate until all ideas of differentiation are removed. 33. All is delusion, have no doubt about this. All is illusion, have no doubt about this. All is inconsequential, there is no doubt of this. All is unreal, there is no doubt of this. All is ever Brahman, and I am that mass of existence, consciousness, bliss. Ever meditate tirelessly thus, until all the differences as all cease. 34. All is the Supreme Brahman, there is no doubt of this. All is the Supreme Brahman, there is no doubt of this. That Brahman I ever am, have no doubt about this. That Brahman I ever am, have no doubt about this. There's no difference between all and Brahman. All is the undivided Brahman. Thus meditate, ever delusionless, until all the differences die out. 35. It is only the Supreme Brahman that is being alone, which is all. There never is anything as real and unreal. It is only the Supreme Brahman, which is consciousness alone, that is all. There never is anything such as mind. It is only Brahman abiding in itself that is all. There's no world, individuals, or the Supreme. The Supreme Brahman is immaculate, and that am I. changelessly meditate every day. 36. There's nothing such as the body or the five elements that are its base. No senses, no intellect, no thought, no mind. No egoity, no bondage. No liberation, no Lord, Ishvara, the liberator. No individual, Jiva, to be liberated. Nothing at all. All is the non-dual Brahman, and that am I. Thus unwaveringly meditate every day. There's not an atom apart from the Supreme Brahman of the nature of knowledge, as all that has arisen from the Supreme Brahman of the nature of knowledge is of the nature of knowledge. I indeed am this Supreme Brahman. Thus steadfastly meditate upon yourself as the Absolute of the nature of knowledge until all differences are utterly eliminated. 38. Casting afar the idea of all and determining that all is Brahman, and by the conviction that Brahman indeed is myself, and I indeed am Brahman, and thus destroying all this illusory idea of difference, and subsequently casting afar even that conviction, that bhava, be firmly, changelessly established in your own pure self. 39. Casting out even the thought of being changelessly established, going even beyond remaining as your own self, so casting out even the thought of being changelessly established, going even beyond remaining as your own self, and becoming of the exclusive nature that is beyond the reach of mind and words, son or daughter, attain the natural state, sahaja. There is nothing more to be taught here. This is indeed what the Supreme Shiva revealed to me earlier as being established in one's own nature. 40. Casting aside all ideas of difference, even an atom thereof, being actionless in the self, which is the differenceless absolute, without a thought, and being immersed in bliss, is the establishment in one's own nature. This state of abidance is referred to here and there as nirvikalpa samadhi, the differenceless, otherless, unchanging, doubtless absorption. What has been described is, as mentioned here and there, the immediate awareness of the undivided Supreme Presence, boundless being. 41. This is the steadfast abidance referred to here and there as the power of liberation while yet alive. This is the elevated abidance in peace. The fit foundation for this is the four requisites for realization. Only for those who are in consonance with this abidance will the fear of repeated rebirth die out. The great fear of worldly birth and death will never disappear by resorting to anything else. 42. Those who have this perfectly full culmination, even if outcasts, shall become the pure supreme and be liberated. There's no doubt of what has been said. This is the ultimate truth. Hence, all those desirous of liberation should, until they attain this culmination, steep themselves in the conviction, the bhava, of the undivided Supreme, that all the perceptible differences are only Brahman, and that Brahman of the nature of knowledge is only myself. 43. Listen again to the great teaching for being established without differences in one's own nature. There's nothing such as this. All is ever of the nature of Brahman. The elements and their formations are all of the nature of Brahman. The world and objects are all of the nature of Brahman. All that is perishable is of the nature of Brahman. The world, the individual, and the Supreme are all of the nature of Brahman. There's no delusion. 44. There's no delusion, no egoity, no mind, no intellect, no thought, no body, no action, no doer, no organs, no senses, no manifold life, no gods, no Brahma, the creator, no Hari, the sustainer, no Hara, the destroyer, nor anything else. All is ever of the nature of the one, perfectly full, undivided Brahman. 45. There being no Maya, illusion, there is no division as the Lord who is associated with the conditioning of Maya. There being no nescience, there is no division as individuals associated with nescience. There being no Brahma, the creator, the holy, there is no creation. There being no Hari, the sustainer, the shining, there is no sustenance. There being no Hara, the destroyer, the beneficent, there is no destruction. All is of the nature of the perfectly full Brahman. 46. There being no deities to be worshipped, there is no worship, and there are no worshippers. There being no liberating God, there is no liberation, and there are no seekers after liberation. There being nothing seeable of which to speak, there never is a seer. All is the Supreme Brahman alone, which is of the nature of knowledge, without an atom of impurity. 47. There being no cause to be thought of at all, there's nothing anything as effect. There being no connected doer at all, there's no fruit to be enjoyed by him. As there's never anything to be called all, there's no such thing as all. All is the Supreme Brahman, which is the blemishless, partless, perfectly full presence. 48. There's no cause, such as differences at all. There is no effect produced by differences at all. There's nothing at all that is manifold. There's nothing at all that is variegated. There's nothing at all to be called all. There is no world or jiva or supreme at all. All is of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is of the nature of undivided, perfectly full knowledge. 49. By the conviction, the bhava, that there never is anything at all, at any time, that all is the undivided Supreme Brahman. Brahman indeed is myself, and I indeed am that Brahman. all those who are suffused with that undivided knowledge will, with all the differences instantly transcended, attain the nature of the highest. I've told you this as expounded to me graciously by the great Shiva. All who hear and understand this shall become the Absolute themselves. '50. It is only for those who lovingly, every day, meditate upon the undivided Supreme Shiva nature and obtain His grace, that the blemishless knowledge of the Supreme will arise in the mind. All irremovable ignorance will be eliminated, and the state of liberation in which they become the Supreme itself ensue. This liberation is not for others. Thus, the sage Ribhu explained with love the differenceless Supreme to Nidada. 51. It is the perfectly full form of our Lord in a state of joyous dance that says, all the illusory things are ever the spotless Supreme Consciousness. By the meditation that I am this Supreme Consciousness, the knowledge of consciousness bliss is developed, and one can become the undivided Absolute oneself without any fear of the cycle of repetitious birth and death. So that is the last verse of chapter 18. Have a really wonderful day.